Hello, I'm going to walk through one of the most important features in Photoshop today, and that is the creation of a mask. Layers and masks are the two most important things that are involved in editing your pictures and learning Photoshop. Layers are kind of the heart of Photoshop, and masks are the soul of Photoshop. Now, some layers come along with their own masks, so it makes it a little bit easy. I'm going to use a picture here that was sent in by one of the students for our class, and I'm going to demonstrate the mask. My mouse cursor has a little purple highlight on it, so you can follow along a little bit with what I'm doing. What I suggest you do is take a picture that is a color picture like this that has some selective color in it. In this case, I'm going to take a look at the pink roses here that are in the middle. So take a picture that has some color in it and practice learning masks with this kind of a picture. If you can master masks with this kind of a picture, you're going to be able to use this in any possible way to be able to selectively edit your images. I had set up a video showing you how I set up my screen in Photoshop. So I have my palettes over here, I have my history palette, my adjustment palette, my layers palette. Today we're going to be using the adjustment palette and the layers palette. If you did not have those visible, you can watch the video or you can access them by going to Windows and you want to click on the layers palette and the adjustment palette and make sure at least those two are indeed visible. What we're going to do is we're actually going to make this picture into a black and white image. So all of these adjustment layers that are up here, we have brightness and contrast, which I never use, levels, which I use on pretty much every picture, hue and saturation, which is a very good tool, color balance, selective color, but what we're going to use right now is the black and white. So we're actually going to click on this, and when we click on this, we're going to get a layer that's going to appear. So this layer is going to now show up in our layers palette over here, and it's basically made our image black and white. The black and white tool that is in Photoshop, CS4 and CS5, is a very good tool. It enables you to basically put filters in front of each color the same way you used to do when you used film and shot with black and white, and you could actually put filters in here to be able to change how the exposures of the different colors are actually affected here. So you can just do this to something that's pleasing and adjust your black and white, image the way that you find it aesthetically pleasing. So you can do this. Now what's nice is because you put this on a layer, you actually have this information that's available to you at all times. So if I click the eyeball on and off over here, I can see what I've done. The layer with the pixels is our background layer. That comes up automatically when you open up Photoshop. If I turn the background layer off and only have the layer showing black and white on, there is actually nothing that is visible. So the black and white layer is actually a mathematical formula that applies to what's underneath. So you can actually see the effect of this. And at any point in time, you can actually go back on this and you can adjust this. So if you wanted to be able to tweak it a little bit more, you can tweak it at any particular point in time. If you close the file and go back into it later, a year later, you can still go back into it. What's nice about all of these adjustment layers is all of these adjustment layers come with their own mask. They automatically appear, so it's one of the easiest ways to be able to learn how to mask. So these masks automatically appear anytime that you make any of these adjustment layers. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the mask. And when we click on the mask, we can actually see now it has a little highlight around the mask to show that it's active. Here it's not active. Even if I'm on this layer, it's not active. If I click on this mask itself, it becomes active. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to paint on this layer. What we're basically doing is this is a piece of translucent paper that is over top of our background. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover that up. We're essentially going to paint with white and black. Black conceals, white reveals. So right now, white is revealing everything in this black and white algorithm. We're going to go over and we're going to grab our brush, our paintbrush here, is B for brush. We're going to have the opacity in this particular case set at 100%. There might be times where you want to set this at a lower percentage, but for the most part, we're going to be painting with black or white, so we're going to be painting at 100%. We're going to be looking at a hardness right now that's going to be a very soft brush, but at any point in time, we could actually change the hardness. If you want to go around an edge that's very defined, you might actually have to increase the hardness, and I'll talk about that later. The size is going to be the size of your brush, and one of the ways to increase the size of your brush is going to be to actually increase it during this palette here. But I find that's not very convenient. So what I tend to do, and I'm going to turn off the cursor here for a second so you can actually see this, is I'm going to use my left and my right bracket. When I use my brackets, I can on the fly increase and decrease the size of my brush here. So I can make them go up and I can make them go down pretty quickly to be able to get into all the edges that I want to be able to go into over here. So you can indeed change them by going up to the tool up here. So this is a context aware tool, and it's going to be changing anytime that you touch one of these tools. But what we're going to do in this case is we're going to use the brackets. It's one of the shortcuts that I definitely suggest everybody learns, is to be able to use the brackets. It's located right next to the P on your keyboard, and the left bracket is just going to make it smaller, the right bracket is going to make it larger. So we're on the brush. We know how to increase and decrease the brush size, so that if we want to get around certain areas, we might want to decrease the brush, and we might want to increase the brush if we're going over larger areas. The other thing we're going to want to learn how to do is the switch between black and white. We're always going to be painting with black or white. So if you go down here and you can click on the default colors, is just this little white and black box over here. And you can switch between white and black by clicking on this little arrow over here. So I'll put my cursor back on for a second. You can see where I am on the left hand side. And you can click this and you go back and forth. The other shortcut, besides the brackets to increase and decrease your size, is going to be the X key. What the X key enables me to do is, without going over here with my mouse, I can actually switch back and forth between the black and the white. So as I'm painting, and I'm going to be, again, black is going to conceal, white is going to reveal, I'm going to be constantly switching between black and white. What's really nice is this is a non-destructive editing technique. So what it enables you to do is at any point in time you can go back and you can tweak this. If you did this with the eraser tool and you erase too many pixels, those pixels are gone forever. You'd have to go back to your original image. And there are times you do so much editing that's not really possible to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I have a white mask over here. It automatically appeared when I selected any of my adjustments. I'm going to paint on this mask. So again, I have my brush tool. I'm going to make sure that I'm on black. So I always have either black or white. Again, I can just switch back and forth by either pressing that little arrow or by switching on and off with the X key. So I'm going to paint with black, and I'm going to again turn off this little cursor thing. And I'm just going to start painting in this pink area over here. Now, perhaps you've had too much coffee in the morning, or perhaps you're just not good at coloring within the lines, and you can already start to see that I've got a little bit of green and a little bit of other colors that are showing up over here. But that's okay. Now, if I had used the eraser tool and those pixels were now gone, I would kind of be in trouble. So you'd have to be really very precise, and you'd have to make sure that you did everything right. But because I'm painting on a mask, and you can actually see over here where the mask is actually showing in black where I've masked. So I basically put like black construction paper over top of this, and it's preventing the black and white from showing up. So I can actually zoom in on my image, and now what I can do is I can use that X key. I can switch over here, and I'm switching from the black back to the white. White is going to now reveal, and I can tweak this, and I can go in further, and I can get just the parts that I want to be in color. I can remove the spots where I've colored outside the line. And again, say I go too far, I just switch back, and I can go constantly between black and white, painting to either reveal or conceal. I can zoom in so I can really get within the lines here. I can constantly switch between black and white to be able to reveal and conceal exactly where it is that I want to be able to do this. I can go back and forth as many times as I want to. If I open up this image a year from now and I didn't realize that I missed this spot, I still have this mask. I can still go back in here and I can still paint on this mask here. So it's very powerful to be able to learn how to use layers in Photoshop and how to use masks in Photoshop as well. So you can constantly, and again, I would do this pretty slowly. I do selective coloring for all of our weddings. I'll use it sometimes just to be able to emphasize something when I'm teaching. It's something very effective at being able to direct the viewer's eyes to a particular part of an image. Perhaps you took an image and it was just too cluttered. You just couldn't make it simple when you actually took the image. So what you were able to do then is create a black and white image and then add a little bit of color. Now, do I want that in green? Probably not. So I just switch. I'm just constantly using that X key. I'm switching back and forth. White is revealing, black is concealing, and I'm just going around the edges of my flower here, constantly switching between black and white, and you can see this all the time, switching between black and white. And I'm just tweaking this image until I get it to be where I think that just the parts that I want to be in color are in color, and the parts that are not in color are not. And again, it's very forgiving. You color outside the lines, you just switch. You can increase and decrease the sizes of your brush, and you can constantly switch back and forth between revealing and concealing. I suggest you practice a few different pictures that have color in them. Make them black and white images, add a little bit of selective color back in. Once you understand the concept of a mask, and what's nice about black and white and color is you can see it. So it's very easy to be able to understand masking if you learn it this way. Once you understand how to mask, you can now do this for anything. Perhaps you just want to sharpen part of an image, not the whole image. Perhaps you just want to darken or lighten just part of an image, not the whole image. You can now apply a mask to anything. Say you want to swap heads because somebody's eyes were closed. You can now swap heads because you understand how to use a mask. And again, it's very forgiving. I can constantly go back and forth between the white and the black. If I color outside of the lines at all, I can go back in at any point in time and I can just use the opposite color. So this is something that you definitely should practice on your own. Take a dozen images over a period of time, and I can see this. When I turn this layer on and off, it goes from color to black and white. I can see the mask over here.